Is it possible to bring the lights a little bit more up in the audience? Brilliant, thank you. So this is partly about me, but it's mostly about all of you. And before we start, because we've been sitting down for a while, could I invite everyone to stand up? And just spend a few seconds stretching. Just stretch as you need to stretch. Do whatever you need to do. It's difficult for farmers to sit down for a while. I feel this quite strongly. Brilliant. And just take a deep breath before we start. Great. Hi, I'm Ella Hashemi, and I'm engaged in biodynamic agriculture, but I'm fairly new to it. I'd just like to get an idea in the audience of how many people are also quite new to biodynamics, either as a movement or practices. If you could just raise your hand. Okay. And is everyone else feeling quite comfortable with biodynamics? Could you raise your hand if you feel very experienced and established in this field? Anyone? Okay, there are a few hands. I hope this talk is going to be relevant to both of those groups and that you'll take something away from it. The reason why I'm here and my relationship to biodynamics is that it's been a strong part of my reconnection to nature. I was born in London and lived there for 18 years, and my first contact with biodynamics was in Italy, where I lived for a year. And I stumbled upon a farm that was recommended to me by a friend, and it just so happened it was biodynamics. I came back to England really curious about what this term was and if it even existed in English. And I followed that experience with a 2-year apprenticeship at Ruskin Mill, where I developed my understanding of agriculture and of biodynamics. And I've spent the last year journeying in different farms, learning from different people about horticulture, specifically to do with medicinal herbs. And I've just taken on a market garden at Shipton Mill in Gloucestershire. So I'm really at the start of this journey, and I mainly don't know what I'm doing. During my apprenticeship at Ruskin Mill, I was really grateful to be surrounded by many other people who are at a similar stage in their journey. And some of them are here today. And we decided to hold a gathering of all the apprentices across the country as a social gathering, but also as a peer-to-peer learning system. So it was about sharing our stories and our experiences. And we ended up doing really geeky things like grass identification walks with each other, which is brilliant. And on the second of these gatherings, which was this summer, I felt inspired to film people. And I'm not quite sure why, but I think it was something to do with celebrating our inexperience and capturing these wonderful people who I've met along the way, who are crazy enough to enter into farming today. So I'd like to share a 5-minute film with you, which is the result of that gathering and connecting with people at that gathering, but it's also been an ongoing process this season, so not all of it is from the summer. But all of these people are beginner farmers and gardeners. I think that's all I'll say about it for now. Enjoy.
I guess I'd ask him how he felt about people constantly saying Steiner said. 90 years later, would he, maybe he would be thinking, I wish people would stop, wouldn't even use my name, or
I was wondering, is a preparation preparations that get effect as a remedy for the soul and for the plants, or are they tools for people to get connected with their spirituality?
What was his sort of vision and driving force, and the things that he then said, are they intended to be taken quite as literally as maybe some people are taking them, or are they intended as like a new narrative for our culture?
I just think I'd like to tell him how brave I think he was in his time.
I think I'd ask him how he'd ever get to sleep at night. Thoughts flying around.
Farmers are ageing, and the job in the modern world has become one that's very isolated from one that used to be that everybody in the village would come and help out at haymaking or something, or all the other farmers, and you'd go along and help each other.
And do you think it's useful to have a different category to organic? Because a lot of the things, the processes are similar.
I guess I'm worried about alienating or putting people off things that I really care about.
I guess that's also that's just a really good thing to explore. Biodynamics, permaculture, the organic movement, forest gardening. I think it's all kind of working towards something. There's a lot of ideas that are similar between lots of people working in those fields. So it would be great, I think, in the future to explore those similarities.
Seems to be a resurgence in that, like it's moving towards smaller farms again and managing them more hands-on. If you begin to try and learn about biodynamics without being able to speak to someone who's working within it, you tend to always end up in the same places. It's like planting calendar preparations. There's just so much more in the whole perspective that draws everybody and connects everybody together.
As far as I can gather from anything that I've read by Steiner, he was saying, don't be hardline about it. These are some ideas, you've got to be flexible, test them out and develop them if they're not right. Otherwise it's dead then, isn't it?
I feel like it needs to open up a little bit. It's not really about going back, I don't think. It's about going forward. It's just, there's some knowledge there that would be really useful.
Now I'm really happy for finding something that I enjoy and that's good for me, but it also feels like it's good for the planet and other people.
I guess a lot of the kind of farming advice he was giving, it was also with the idea of, well, here's the idea, now you need to go out and try it out.
Yeah, I guess in terms of my next steps, I guess I want to just carry on learning, and I want biodynamics to be part of that. So I want to keep, trying things and feeling how they feel and tuning into things. But then on the other hand, I'm also keen to try to take growing and farming to people who don't normally have access to those things.
Lots of people come into it later, so I'm really happy that I've found about it now and I can, just give all my life to it. I've got the next 40 years to go.
you. It was really humbling process to be asking people these questions. Some of these people are people I've worked with for 3 years, and perhaps we never actually shared a conversation so deeply about our relationship to Rudolf Steiner and his work, or our relationship to biodynamics as a movement or a community. So for me, it in fact raised way more questions than answers, and I'm sure, yeah, other people might find their own relationship to issues raised in the film. I'm going to talk about some of my responses and then invite you to share some of yours. The first thing it got me thinking about was privilege and access to good quality food, which I feel very grateful to experience and to be part of. But it also made me think about what makes biodynamics different from other forms of agriculture. And I think everyone will have their own answer to this question. And for me, it's about consciousness about consciousness. So we might be engaging in similar techniques as other farmers, but I feel the emphasis that biodynamics puts on this is to be conscious of what you're doing, but also to take a step back and to look at to be aware of the intention of what you're doing, and yeah, have a think about that as well. One thing I was made aware of during the filming was the danger of celebrating biodynamics at the risk of demonizing other forms of agriculture. And it seemed like quite a common theme amongst the beginner farmers here of a need to open up as a movement and to reach out to other forms of agriculture. So not to say, hey, we're biodynamics and we're amazing and you're not so great, but actually coming from a point of view of, yes, we have something to offer you, I feel like we do, but you also have something to offer us. So coming from a space of mutual value. And that was really the impulse that led to myself, Sophia, and Lucy to create a new initiative called Groundspring. We talked about this for some time at the last gathering of biodynamic beginner farmers and growers, of how we could open up, and we thought, hey, we're having so much fun here. Why is it just for biodynamic people? Why don't we open it up to organic farmers who are also at the start of their farming journey, or permaculture practitioners, or people engaged in agroforestry? And so the intention of Groundspring is really this cross-pollination of different forms of sustainable agriculture. And at our launch weekend 2 weeks ago, there were people engaged in permaculture, people from the biodynamic movement, some of whom are here today, also some organic farmers who are at the start of their journey, and also some conventional farmers who are interested in what we're doing. And I feel really strongly that everyone there had something to offer, and we all had something to share, which was, we don't know what we're doing, but we're enthusiastic and we're keen to learn more. So it was about connection and about engaging with each other. And this is something that I hope we continue, so we're not just talking at this conference engaging in biodynamics, but we'll also be at the Soil Symposium and the Organic Producers Conference, and also at the Oxford Real Farming Conference. So these are all different groups of people who care about sustainability and farming. It's also about changing the narrative of agriculture and giving it a fresh perspective. And I was inspired by what Monty said yesterday, which is kind of a wake-up call, or an invitation to a wake-up call. He made the suggestion of having an advert to make biodynamics sexy. I think he was talking about G-strings and honey. I don't really agree with that approach. I don't agree with the appropriation of women's bodies to sell a product, however valuable that product is. But what I do feel is that we're going out to the fields, we're using our bodies to create amazing food, we're working with ourselves, with the soil, with everything that's around us, and we love what we're doing. The people in the film, they're fiercely enthusiastic about what they're doing, otherwise they wouldn't be there. And for me, it's a joy to say, yes, I'm a gardener, and to tell my friends in London what I'm doing. And for me, that is sexy, and that is what we can tell people. What I learned from these beginner farmers is that we're already out there creating a sustainable future. There are already people setting up CSAs, maintaining CSAs, working on access to sustainable food. There are people engaging with school children so that they know where their food comes from. These initiatives are already occurring and we need to celebrate them now, and perhaps as farmers and gardeners we don't have that much time to do that. But I feel very drawn to create a platform in which we can share what we're doing with each other, but also celebrate it with the outside world, and that's part of what Groundspring is about. It's also about supporting beginner farmers. So a lot of people we talked to at the stall over the weekend have said, this is great. I wish that I had that when I was starting out, that I had some kind of signposting of, yeah, there's this resource if you're interested in this, or there's this opportunity, it might work for you. So our hope is that our website will be somewhat of a junction box for beginner farmers, that they can arrive at one place and then be springboarded into different initiatives that are already ongoing. Things like the biodynamic apprenticeship, which is doing wonderful work. And yeah, I think all that's left to say from me is that I love what I'm doing, and it's clear from the film that we all love what we're doing, so please come and join in. Thank you.
There was a question about your website, what your website is.
Yeah, our website is not yet designed. We're very much at the start of this process, so we're at the moment designing the network. But if you have any questions about the film or about Groundspring, we'll be at the stall in the break time.